Well, I appreciate you joining me today. It's always a lot of fun to catch up with athletes and kind of get your perspective on things. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in the game of softball?
So my name's Keirstin Roose, as you know already, but the listeners don't. And I actually started playing softball when I was 3, or t-ball, I guess. But that's when I started, and at that point, it was all fun and games. And I mean, I barely remember it, but I started playing travel ball, but not really. It was regional, like just around our town and stuff. When I was 8, and on a team called Little Scrappers, because my dad owned a junkyard and we were the Little Scrappers. Just playing with kind of local athletes and the all-star team, if you will.
Right.
But the real travel ball started when I was around 11. I started going up to Detroit, and I'm originally from LaGrange, Indiana. So Detroit is a 3.5 hour drive for me. And we would have practices on Sundays. My dad would wake up at 3:30 in the morning, drive me all the way. The dedication wasn't really on my part. I got to sleep the whole ride, but he and another parent would always drive us down or up to Detroit, and it was just that was when my travel ball and college exposure really started. And it's different for everyone because some people start college exposure a lot later. Some people, like I had a teammate get recruited in 8th grade, and that's just crazy to me because that's not the norm. It's amazing, but that's definitely not the norm. But yeah, 12U, I started sending emails out to coaches, and that was when I was really getting serious about it. Started going I'd been going to camp since I was like 8, but that was really just to get fundamentally sound and learn things from college players. My dream school was always Notre Dame in Indiana because that's about 45 minutes away from us. So I went to all the camps and knew the coaching staff, ended up playing for the assistant coach's husband on an intensity team. That was a fun experience because I also became really good friends with the assistant coach's daughter, and that was like my dream school for a while until I realized that it's like $80,000 a year, and the the chances of me getting a full ride there were slim. Um, and but yeah, so when I was, I think, 14, I switched over to intensity, and then went back to like a Motor City Madness team when I was maybe 16.
Mhm.
So I bounced around between Indiana and Detroit playing, and just a whole lot of travel. And as all the kids these days know, it's definitely dedication, and it's you have to prioritize a lot of stuff with it. But I don't really regret anything about the whole journey of everything, even the recruiting journey, which they're all different, but I don't regret anything about it. And yeah, I got recruited when I was a junior. I went on an official visit to Coastal Carolina, fell in love with the place, committed there in the fall, and then actually had some injuries, tore my ACL in the fall right after I committed. And Coastal, they kept their promise, and they're like, we're with you the whole way. They kept my scholarship, everything, and the rest has been history.
Like you said, the stories. They're all unique and they're all different. And with you growing up in Indiana and wanting to looking at like a Notre Dame or looking at some other big schools that are around there, what made you kind of venture out a little bit and say, "Hey, I don't have to be right here local. I can, go and look and see what's around." Because, you can tell me, did you know about Coastal or when did you find out that there was even a college in Conway, South Carolina?
Yeah, so when I was little and even up through high school, I had only considered Midwest schools.
Mhm.
That just was the only option in my mind, was Midwest schools and schools I'd gone to camps to. And I ventured out maybe East Coast. I was looking at like Boston College, Boston U, like Harvard flirted in my mind, but I'm like, yeah, that's also really expensive. Um, but I had always thought I would stay in the Midwest, especially because like I'd always had some problems with heat. Like my dad would always make fun of me because I couldn't handle the heat. I'd like get super sweaty and feel like I was gonna pass out. And so I never thought about going down south. But when I was playing in Colorado, I was playing in front of other coaches that I had sent emails to, and the coach that I actually thought I was going to another school. Like I was dead set on one school. And Coastal showed up to the game. I think they were watching a different girl. And I had a recruiter who was like, "Hey, you should just email them." I'm like, "I don't even know who the heck Coastal Carolina is." Conway, South Carolina, where is that? And like at that point, I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I'll email him." So this is a good like note for the kids out there. If
Mhm.
it does not hurt to email. You got nothing to lose by emailing a coach.
Yeah.
So I sent them an email. I had actually made a really good play in that game. And that was the summer before September 1st, my junior year. And then September 1st rolls around. I think they had watched me play a couple other times. They kind of followed me throughout the tournament.
Mhm.
Um, and the recruiter had talked to them. They'd expressed some interest. And September 1st rolls around. I'm getting a bunch of calls, and Coastal Carolina was one of them. And I was like, huh, like they offered for me to come on a official visit and they would pay for me to go down there. And I'm like, okay, get out of school, go to the beach. Yeah, I'm in. Went to Coastal Carolina's campus, and that wasn't the first visit I had been on. But I fell in love with the campus. Like it's really hard to decide not to go somewhere that has palm trees behind the field. When I tell you that was a selling point, I'm like, yeah, yeah, this is cool. But also I love the campus. I love the size of it. It's looking at the size of the campus really matters in my opinion. Like, do you want to go to a bigger school or a smaller school?
Right.
Because everyone's like preferences are different.
Yeah.
The coastal's like 10,000 students, so it's kind of medium range there. And I think that is a good balance for me because I don't want to be just one of 1,000 or one in a million students, and one professor has 80 students in a class. You don't know your professor that well. I really like the ratio of students to professors here. And I know the whole exercise science department through doing research and stuff,
Mhm.
and they all know me. And it's like, it really helps with athletics and getting that flexible schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that
I've
was kind of,
always
but
I've always said that Coastal has that big campus feel, but it
Mhm.
also has that small campus feel as well. It depends on how you make it. Like if you look at it like it's a big campus, then you don't need to go to any other big campus because you get overwhelmed. But if you want that smaller campus, Conway right here in town, right beside it, Coastal's a great campus for me. In and out, I love it.
Yeah, it's beautiful too,
Well,
especially coming from cornfields.
yeah, I would say. So as you're getting close to making that decision, and you're sending out your emails and you're making sure you're staying in contact with these coaches, speak on how that decision came about and you knew that, okay, this is the one I'm going to lock in on. How do you go about letting the other schools that are interested know that it's not them that you're making your decision on? You're going to end up going somewhere else, because I have a lot of athletes. It's like I get hit with all these emails or there's interest or whatever. How do I let them know that I'm not interested anymore?
Mhm. So it's funny because, like I said, I was really banking on one school. I was kind of, I committed there in my head before I had actually gotten the call September 1st. And they had watched me play all summer. The winter before, they came down and watched my basketball sectionals in Indiana, and it was 4.5 hours away. And then they also came and watched high school softball sectionals. So I was like, dead set. We went and watched a game, and they yelled up something that like made me think that, oh, they're in, they want me. And then they watched me the whole summer, and I take full responsibility for the summer. I did not play well. They saw a lot of bad games for me, and they ended up filling my spot anyways through the transfer portal. And it was kind of, the recruiting process was a good, I've never really failed that much, and not getting a call from that school,
Mhm.
it was disappointing. But in today's day and age where you don't get cut on teams, everyone makes the team. And I do well academically. I hadn't failed that much, but that was a good moment for me to realize like I didn't play as well. And so this was the outcome. And there's no excuse for that. And so it just kind of fueled the fire to work harder. But I did get a lot of good calls September 1st, and I had been talking to a lot of schools. There were a few schools I was really interested in, and we were communicating a lot. And so when I went on the visit to Coastal, almost immediately after, I decided to go to Coastal because, like I said, the campus, the environment. I also am a pretty independent woman, and I like the idea of going away from home and being my own person.
Yeah.
And that was really attractive to me. And then, of course, the scholarship, it was impossible to say no. So once I did commit, I had had my commitment post, so coaches knew that way. But I also, the ones I was talking to, I reached out to them like out of respect because I was like, hey, I'm deciding to go here. Thank you for all your time. I think reaching out is definitely an important thing because from the school that I wanted to go to, they never contacted me. And so I was just waiting. And I wanted that same respect of them to tell me. And I had finally reached out to them. I'm like, hey, like, what's going on here? And they let me know that they filled my spot through the transfer portal. I was like, all right. So that wasn't that hard. So I wanted to give the same respect back that they didn't give me.
Yeah. And that's very mature. And sometimes, 17, 18, 19-year olds are sometimes more mature than 30, 40, 50 years old, just depending on the situation. I'm sure you grew up a lot once you got on campus and it was like, okay, hey, I'm here. I made it now. And, you're dealing with different things. Take me a little bit through, that early process of figuring things out and going, you know what, man, this is tough, but I can make it.
Yeah, so everyone's experience on campus freshman year is so different. You have the homebodies who get homesick, they're crying every night, and it's really tough for some people.
Yeah.
Other people are thriving. Like I was thriving off of creating my own schedule, doing what I wanted, and not having to be tied down to anything really, like other than softball. And the challenge for me was it was exciting. The school challenge, I came in with 22 credits, so I was already a sophomore basically.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was in harder classes like anatomy and physiology my freshman year. It was first semester, and it was I learned by getting thrown into the fire. I learned really good like study habits and also how I study best because everyone's different. And I learned a lot about myself, and I used freshman year to learn. But saying that, it wasn't a walk in the park.
Right.
I had my moments, and also just getting used to college softball. It's a completely different game. And I learned this, it kind of the difficulty level increased throughout each season, I guess. So like the beginning of fall season where we have our 8-hour weeks, it was okay. Like I was as good as I was in travel ball, and we didn't really play each other. It was just small group work and I was excelling. And then fall ball came in. That's when we first started playing some competition, and I was still excelling. I was doing really well in fall ball. And then like spring hits, and that is when you realize college isn't travel ball. And you may have been the best in high school, but you're just Joe Schmo in college. And it's something that I wish I could teach young athletes before they get there. But honestly, I think it's something that people just learn themselves. Like when you get here and you're not the best, and the amount of failure that comes with playing this sport, especially at the high level that we're at, it it was a learning curve to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah, I coach a lot from that embrace embrace the failure, embrace
Mhm,
that grind. Like it's okay to fail because that's how you learn. It's like if you're taking BP and like for whatever reason, this set of 10 or 12 on the tee, you're just not hitting it like you want to. Step
mhm,
back because you're about to have another set, but learn how that was feeling. Or if you're just today, man, I cannot get this in the glove like I want it. I
mhm,
can't find it in the glove. Something is going on. It's not the end all be all. But embrace that and understand, okay, this is what it feels like. Take me
mhm.
through that with you about like, hey, you know what? this is legit right here. I'm having fun getting my butt kicked because I'm learning and it's making me better.
Right. I have always said that I've learned the most through failing. Succeeding is great, but you can't really adjust off of success because there's nowhere to go because you want to keep succeeding. You stay in the same spot because I mean you're doing well. But failure is really where you make those leaps. It's the moment where you were up here, you get down, rock bottom, all you can go is up, and you make bigger jumps than when you were here. You start getting up here,
Yeah.
then you fail a little bit and get better. So it's like an ever growing curve and roller coaster at that. It's failure to me. I used to be such a perfectionist, and not that that's completely gone away because I would love to be perfect, but the understanding that I will never be perfect and that I can use these failures as learning lessons, I kind of had to switch my mindset.
Mhm.
So freshman year, striking out a lot more than I ever have in my life. And it was upsetting at first, but I had to realize that striking out is just an opportunity to learn for the next at bat.
Mhm.
If I'm thinking about the strikeout out retrospectively, getting upset and hanging on to it, it isn't helping my next at bat. But if I think about, oh, she threw me inside, then switched back out to out, and I froze up because I was sitting inside, I'm using that for my next at bat, knowing I froze up on that outside pitch, I'm probably going to see it again. So changing my plan and using that information from the failure as a way to succeed. And I also, in the cage, when I'm hitting in practice, had to change my mindset. The process over outcome, it's kind of cliche, but it is a game changer. I was able to switch my mindset in the cages. If I hit like a line drive, obviously great. The outcome is great. But if I start to roll over and pull everyone into the right or the left side of the cage, pulling it to third, um, at first I would get upset freshman year. It was like the maturity that I was able to have throughout. I grew a lot, but so pulling it to the left side, just making the same mistake over and over and getting frustrated, I changed that mindset to, okay, if I pull it to the left side, I am going to try to hit a pop up to right field. And if I'm able to adjust, that was a little win in my head.
Yeah.
So being able to go from left side to right side, even if that's not the outcome I want, because no one wants to pop it up to right field, making that adjustment is a win because it's my body listening to my brain. And I know I can make those adjustments. Then you find the happy medium and hopefully you're hitting line drives again. But it's just all about making adjustments. And like I said, when you're succeeding, you're not making adjustments. But when you're failing, you definitely are trying everything possible to get better.
Yeah. Two things. One of my probably biggest mentors, Coach Tony Rico from the Firecrackers organization. He talks about process goals versus outcome goals, and it's huge. And I even try to instill that in the little 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds that I'm working with, because they'll get in the cage with me, and you can see they'll get frustrated because they're with a hitting instructor or a swing instructor, and they think they have to show up and be perfect. They're
Mhm.
like just don't want to fail. And you have to tell them a couple of different times throughout lessons, a couple of months. It's like, no, we're here so that you can get confident through those failures, because that's where you learn from. And like you were talking about at your age, I mean, we're talking about college athletes that are learning this. Like
Right.
don't celebrate because you're failing, but also like look at it and go, hey, wait a minute, this is where I'm learning from. And like you said, man, sometimes you get these athletes that are just unicorns and they don't fail until they get to college. And then all of a sudden they hit that brick wall and they don't know how to overcome that.
Hmm.
So you
Yeah.
as an athlete, I mean, you can attest to that, I'm sure.
Yeah. And also, um, like a message to parents is the messaging we give out to our kids is also important. Like, I'm not a parent, obviously, and there's no perfect way to parenting. I've thought a lot about it, just like what would I do for my kid as an athlete?
Mhm.
But something that I would recommend is just complimenting and reinforcing the adjustments and the effort to get better or change from failure. A lot of times parents only praise the home runs, the straight A's instead of the getting the B up to the A. The process of, like I said, pulling one to the left side and then next at bat. Like, I love how you adjusted and you were trying to make that adjustment and you hit it to right field. And although right field wasn't where you wanted to hit it, you made that adjustment. And I love your effort in doing that. And I think that's something, I think if parents implemented that a lot, it would help with the process over outcome.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I mean, you are the athlete that, I mean, I see you on social media and you are constantly grinding through athletics. I mean, you pay particular attention to working out and you're active and that kind of stuff. Talk about that with athletes that just need to be more active today, because once you get to that college game, if that's your goal, man, you have got to come in better shape than you're going in it.
Yeah. And as much as like, I think I was in shape going into college as well, it's a
Mhm.
completely, it's a huge jump. Um, the way your body feels is comparable to no other feeling. And I think if I hadn't been in such good shape going into college, I would have had that burnout, that fatigue. Like, I mean, fatigue was just my middle name at that point, but there's a lot of people that get to college and they can't keep up.
Mhm.
And so I definitely recommend, like, as high school athletes wanting to play college, you got to get used to the grind. And while there's a happy medium there between grinding and also giving yourself time off, you have to get used to putting yourself under that intensity, that load. It'll also help prevent, I mean, doing it the right way will help prevent injuries in the future. So while I want you to go out and throw extra, hit extra, I also want you to warm up properly,
Mhm.
to J band before you throw. That's something I wish I had access to as a kid. Like, just J banding, it decreases your risk of injury, and I recommend it for everyone. But being able to go and work out is also a huge key. A lot of kids come into college and they don't know how to do a squat. And sometimes it's not their fault. Like, sometimes you just don't have access to a strength coach. But if you can get access to a strength coach or a personal trainer, sometimes the investment is worth it. And hopefully your school has one. But I think that is also important, because then the strength coach has to digress and teach you how to build things from the bottom up. And whereas I came into college, I knew how to lift. I got to lift with the upperclassmen, and some of the freshmen just had to do the whole progressive learning process. And it definitely puts you ahead.
Yeah, and like you said, I think that falls onto the parents a little bit about, don't just promote the good plays, promote the grind that goes with that, promoting the schoolwork, the study hours, the time management, the getting out and lifting. You know, some parents could use that too. Use that as a time to bond with your athlete. If we're just going out for a walk, maybe we're running sprints together.
Mhm.
Maybe, you know, mom or dad are teaching you the basics of lifting and that kind of stuff. I think, you know, that could key on something for some of these athletes that don't have access to that strength and conditioning
Oh,
coach.
yeah, for sure. And
And
also, there's so many resources nowadays. Look
mhm,
it up. Like, YouTube has so many videos on lifting, and you don't even have to have weights to do it.
yeah,
Body weight stuff, learning proper form. If you want it, you can get it for free. The TikTok has so many different influencers, like, teaching you how to do all the different things. And it's a good skill to have. So if you want it enough, you're gonna have to put in the work for it.
yeah. That's, I learned it way back in the day when I was a Marine Corps, in the Marine Corps, as the
Mhm.
squeaky wheel always gets the grease. So I mean, if you want it bad enough, you'll go get it. But if you
Yeah.
just want to play the part and act like you want it, it shows up over time. You can act like you want to be a college athlete all you want to and talk, say the right things and this and that. But man, once it's time to show up, and you can't show up because you don't know how, that's on you as the athlete.
The idea of being a college athlete is really appealing to people,
Yeah,
and everyone wants to have that Division 1 college athlete in their bio,
yeah,
but not everyone wants to put in the work to get there.
right.
And it shows once people get into college. Um, it sounds great, and people look up to athletes and they think sometimes they're superhuman, and sometimes I feel like we are with the things we do,
Mhm.
but it is not easy, and nor is it pretty. Everyone sees the Cinderella story, but they just look at the glass slippers. They don't see when Cinderella was once cleaning the floors and stuff. They see the end result, and it's really appealing, but not everyone understands the work that goes into it. So that's also something I try to teach the girls that I mentor and I give hitting lessons to, is it's a grind. But
Yeah.
also on that note, like the ability to take a day off for yourself is also a skill. It's something that I just learned this year. The Your body will tell you when it wants to stop, and being able to listen to your body is huge. And also just mentally reset, because the game is so mental and it can be so draining. And being able to find worth in something outside of the sport is my biggest life lesson.
Yeah. You know, we talked a little bit about, and like you mentioned now, listening to your body. You have had some injuries. You've come back from some injuries, and right now you are recovering from an injury. And there's a lot of athletes that are in that same boat that you're in, thinking that, oh man, I'm hurt and I can't be hurt. I can't be injured because I'm going to lose my shot or lose my chance or lose a scholarship, or I could be a sophomore in college and now I'm dealing with this, or just redshirted my freshman year and now I'm hurt. Talk a little bit about that, how that goes into your mind, and where you have to sort of compartmentalize that and get yourself better so you can be available.
Yeah, doubts when you're injured are so common. It's uncommon if you don't have any doubts about yourself.
Mm.
Our brains are just really good at bringing in the negative. It's a survival instinct. We assess, we look for things that we could get better at. We look for the things that are bad just so we can fix them. It's like natural instincts. But being able to fill your brain with the positive is the way you can overcome that. And like you said, I tore my ACL junior year of high school, and that was right after I'd committed to Coastal Carolina. And that was a moment where I'm like, I am I losing my scholarship? Like, have I disappointed them? But when it takes a good coach who keeps her word, and B, them understanding your work ethic. So they were able to trust, they knew that I was going to put in the work to get back and come back better than ever, because they knew who they recruited. They know how much work I put in and how much pride I take in my game. And so they had no problem at all. So it also is just make sure they can see your character and how hard you work and what work you do put in. The grind is everything. So I tore my ACL junior year of high school, came in freshman fall. I was just running during lift, or one of our sprints,
Mhm.
and running in a straight line, my knee popped. And I'm like, what the heck? I I went down because I tried to take another step, couldn't put weight on my leg. And I'm like, gosh, not again. I got scared. I'm like, here goes my whole freshman year.
Mhm.
Um, I am on the ground and just I started crying. And I wasn't crying because of the pain. I was crying because I thought I just gave it all away freshman year already. And got an MRI. They thought it was a meniscus tear. Went in, scoped it, shaved it up, but I also had a cyclops lesion from ACL surgery. So little complication from ACL surgery that they just took out all that junk, and
Yeah.
I was able to play freshman year. So I don't think I was able to play though without the work that I put in over the winter.
Yeah.
And this was late fall. So I went back home to Indiana for the winter. And for a lot of people, not having structured softball can kind of get them off track. But I worked 5, 6 days a week to go to PT, to lift weights, to hit softball. And it's not easy in Indiana in the winter, because it's cold. The roads are snowy. You can't go out and run. But through a gym that I had paid for, through doing hitting lessons, I was able to go work out, run on the treadmill. Um, Insurance paid for the PT, and got back January, no problem. Played my freshman year. Then freshman year, mid-season, I tore up my shoulder, and this was from playing 54 games at third. It's a lot of wear and tear, and the demand of college softball, and also not recovering properly. I didn't understand the importance of getting 8 hours of sleep. I understood the importance of nutrition and eating the right things, but also I was underfueled. I had this fear, this like body dysmorphia is a huge thing, and I didn't want to put on weight. Little did I know that like if I did put on some extra pounds, it's actually going to help me hitting, and I just didn't eat enough. So with that and without sleep, it tore my body up. So got a cortisone shot to get me through the season, PT'd all summer, came back in the fall, then mid-fall, I was just having super bad knee pain. It was awful. I thought I had tore my meniscus again. Got an MRI and an x-ray, and it looked like my patella had a huge chunk out of it. So my kneecap was just missing most of the bone. And they said it was another complication from the ACL surgery because they take out part of your kneecap,
Mhm.
and it either degraded or didn't grow back or whatever. And so they had to go in and pack more bone in my kneecap. So they just put a bone graft in. So that was my third knee surgery. And as you have more injuries, the first one's always really easy because you're like really, really dedicated. You really want to get back as soon as possible. And by the third one, you're like, man, why me? And so those thoughts come in your mind, and you're like, I do almost everything right. And at that point, I had prioritized sleep, my nutrition, I'm eating enough. I felt like I'd done everything right. I have no doubt that I work like as one of the hardest on the team. And I'm like, why me? But change that mindset. I'm like, we got spring coming up, grinded all winter, played all sophomore spring at first because my shoulder was still torn up. Then this year comes around, got through the fall without knee surgery. So that was a win. However, I had a PRP in the summer and then another cortisone shot mid-fall. So my third cortisone shot, and ended up redshirting this year. Got shoulder surgery about 4 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
Um, and it's going to be another grind, but I'm used to it at this point.
Yeah. I mean, the young ladies that are going to be listening to this, I mean, you never know what's going to happen. You never know. Just anything could pop, or but taking care of your body and having it in the best shape it can be, so that maybe it can sustain an injury and then help with the recovery. So, the better shape you're in before something happens, the hopefully the easier the recovery is going to be. Because I mean, I watch your social media stuff, and you are active, you are diligent in your training, and you work your butt off, and I think that's what helps athletes recover a little bit faster. And you got to have that mindset. Like if you're not one of those who's going to put the work in, recovery is going to be a bear. I mean, take it from me, I've had 3 ACL surgeries, and like you said, the first one I was ready to get back, I was gung-ho. The second one's like, all right, well, we'll do it. Third
Yeah.
one, I didn't want to do no more physical therapy. I was tired of it. And now
Yeah.
here I am, almost 40 years old, and I can barely get around.
Yeah. No, if you don't put in the work, it
Yeah.
won't put it in for you. It as much as we wish it would just heal magically, it
Yeah.
doesn't. And like you said, life can change at any moment.
Yeah.
And through the injuries, and also 2 weeks ago now, I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And so this was 2 weeks after my shoulder surgery. And so what a life-changing sentence when I heard you have type 1 diabetes. It was like, this is going to affect the rest of my life. And it was a crazy day. And I've gone to about 20 appointments in the past 2 weeks. Like not even exaggerating. Um, but finding the positive in everything is crucial because luckily I had just had shoulder surgery. So I'm not playing softball. And if this type 1 diagnosis had come during softball season where I was actually playing, it would have been really hard to deal with. And I think I could have done it,
Yeah.
but between classes and 10 appointments a week and just my shoulder surgery, it would have been a lot. So I'm lucky that it kind of showed up now, but life can change at any moment. And that's why, like, also with the injuries, I have learned with each injury not to take any play on the field for granted. Because every play could be your last, and you don't want to regret not giving it all.
Yeah.
It's it's definitely a introspective moment when you have an injury or you have something that can potentially hurt you in the future, and it's like, I'm gonna give it all I got now because this might be my last play.
Yeah. And you are inspiring. You're a great ambassador for the sport. Um, Tons and tons of young athletes, male and female, look up to you because of just the way you carry yourself, the confidence that you have. It's confidence, and it's not cockiness. It's you speak well, you mean well, and you speak from the heart because this is who you are. And dealing with the stuff that you have to deal with. I mean, uh, there's no telling what it would do to a lesser person, someone that's not as strong as you are. So where do you get this strength from? Where do you get this just drive to just keep pushing and being, like you said in the beginning, being independent, but not totally independent?
I think I like to dig deep into childhood, and I'm also kind of an empath for people. And
Mhm.
oftentimes when people are the way they are, good or bad, I try to think of what makes them this way. What did they grow up with, and how did they become the person they become? And it really helps me have empathy for people who aren't the best people to be around. I'm like, what made you this way? So I'm a very introspective person, and I think the ability to be mindful of who you are and really understand yourself without judgment,
Mhm.
knowing your faults, knowing your strengths. It's an important skill to have because the most growth comes from understanding where you could get better. And I'd say, I mean, I didn't have the easiest childhood. Um, my parents were divorced, and there were some sticky situations that I had been in through that. But saying that, I also had a great childhood. I was so blessed to have the opportunities that I had. And um, my dad and mom and stepmom, they all work so hard. And I also have three younger sisters. And everyone works hard to give us the opportunities that we have.
Mhm.
And without those opportunities, but also without the things that I had to conquer
Mhm.
in my childhood, um, I don't think I would be as strong as I am. And I always say that I have a lot of good role models of what not to do. And I think being able to w- kind of learn what not to do based on bad things in your life, and take that with a grain of salt and understand I don't want to be like this. This is the person I want to be. And this is the work that I have to put in to get there.
Mhm.
That is very important. But I've always had work ethic and drive, and maybe it's genetic.
Mhm.
Um, but also like my parents have instilled that in me. My dad had always told me, like, you want it, you gotta work for it.
Yeah.
No one's gonna do the work for you. He even built a batting cage for me when in his business. And so I had access to that and I could grind. Um, but yeah, I think certain things that you deal with in your childhood can make you more mature. They can make you grow up quickly, and you can either succumb to the negative things that you have in your family, or you can choose not to be like that. And that has been my goal, is to I get to choose who I am. And it's been a process for sure. But all of the negative things that I have experienced have made me who I am today. So I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for everything that I've gone through, because I do think I'm a very mentally tough person.
Mhm.
And there's no doubting that in my head. And while I have all my doubts and everything, insecurities, all that, they've slowly dwindled with age because I was able to gain that confidence. I was not always a confident kid. I often doubted my abilities a lot, but having that mindfulness and the understanding of myself, where I can understand my weaknesses as well as my strengths, and I can own both of them. I can try to fix my weaknesses and own my strengths. It's a really cool thing to have, and I've really developed in that way for sure, because I was not always like this.
Yeah, that is powerful. And you do lessons, and you give lessons, and you talk to a lot. And then, camps and stuff that you have over there at Coastal, you're able to talk to these young athletes. And I know just by talking to you, like I can feel it that like you want to give them everything. Like I wish I could explain everything to you and let you know all the stuff that I have and like let you feel my heart because I feel that passion that you have. What does life look like for you after softball when what's your plans with this? I mean, are you going into coaching? Are you into education? I can tell that you're going to do something, I think, with youth. At least that's what it seems like to me on the outside here. So where are you going with this when it's all said and done? Maybe 20 years from now, but what are you doing?
Yeah, so I've had a lot of different ideas for my future. But it kind of all goes back to my why.
Hmm.
I I firmly believe I'm here to influence people and help younger generations. Like I said, I have three little sisters, and I don't want them to go through half the things I went through, and I want the best for them. I want them to be strong women. I want them to be able to stick up for themselves. I want them to have confidence and not doubt their abilities or their bodies and just embrace their strength. And these were all things that like I said, the body dysmorphia, it was huge. Like being a woman, a stronger woman who has bigger muscles, like got called a boy a lot of times. And like it it can, the things you hear can kind of just have an underlying voice in your head.
Yeah.
And being able to grow up and embrace my muscles and love my body, and I want to teach girls to love their bodies the way I love my body now. And while I still have my doubts and I'll still be like, dang, I really don't like the way I look, I am able to conquer that with positive words and thoughts. And so I really want to influence the younger generation so they don't have to go through all that I went through, but also when they do go through things, be able to grow from it and embrace the challenge of life. And that's just my why. I love seeing little girls grow, and it doesn't nothing makes me happier than getting a letter from someone who I do hitting lessons with saying, thank you so much. This has helped me with this, and seeing the progress that girls can have. It's it's really empowering, and I just get so much fulfillment from that. And so I always think I'll work with children and trying to help the next generation. I also do mentorship calls, so it's through a program called Athlete to Athlete, and basically I have 30 to 45-minute calls with young athletes, and I'm able to kind of share the wealth that way and my knowledge, and just try to help athletes learn the things that I learned.
Yeah.
So that was a really long way of saying that I do feel like I'm going to coach some sort. I have really played with the idea of coaching collegiately. That used to be my number one goal.
Yeah.
Wanted to be a collegiate coach. And that still is on the back burner. Right now, I'm getting really into exercise science and really like the biomechanical side of things. Like with throwing and hitting and trying to reduce injury through different biomechanics. I could nerd out on that all day. But also I want to help kids and still do lessons and mentor kids. And also like I really hope I have a daughter one day. And if I have a son too, like helping kids understand the power that us women can have, and how to be a real man, and not in the way of you have to be strong and broody and tough and you can't cry, but how to treat a woman and how to embrace your emotions and be mindful of what you are thinking and feeling, and being able to treat people with respect that way. I think that's the epitome of being a good person.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I want to work with all types of people, help people in every way possible. I love helping people.
That's pretty powerful stuff. And I'm reminded of my good friend Mandy Baldiff. She posted not too long ago. Um, it was something along the lines of, "I'm not intimidating. You're just intimidated.
Mhm.
That's you." Like, you don't try to come out and intimidate anybody. It's just people are probably intimidated by you, by the confidence that you have, how strong your mind is, and putting stuff into action. And there's a bunch of little girls out there that hopefully one day grow up and be just like you are, because I think people like you are what this world needs. Not just the sports world, the softball world, but in general, leading wherever you're at. I'm a huge fan of yours. Um, I don't know where our roads lead, but hopefully they continue to cross, because you're definitely inspiring to me. And I wish you the best with the shoulder. How much longer do you have with recovery? As far as I know, it's just about a month ago you had the surgery. So how much longer you got with that?
I've 2 more weeks in a sling. I'm
Mm,
not wearing it right now.
you
It's on
got that weird
it's on my
sling.
bed staring at me. Yeah, it like keeps it propped up. But I have good range of motion and stuff, so I can
Yeah.
move it all around. But 2 more weeks in that, and then about 5 months out, I can start my throwing progression. 4 months I can start hitting, but 10 months total. So about 9 more.
So you'll be back in time.
Oh, I'll be back. Better than ever too.
One way or the other. You're on that field. I know it.
Oh yeah.
But
Hopefully at third too. That'd be clutch.
it's man, you never know. You might be back in 6 months, 7 months. And knowing your mindset and your work ethic, man, you're going to be back. It's going to be like somebody coming back from, like Adrian Peterson came back from an ACL in like 6 months. It's going to be, they're going to have to tell you to slow down.
Oh, they already have. Like, why are you doing that? And it's because it doesn't hurt. I can't. I don't know.
Yeah. How long was the surgery as far as the procedure itself?
I don't know. I was knocked out.
Yeah.
Probably like probably like an hour and a half. I'm not sure.
Every time I had my ACL done, it was only like an hour and a half, maybe tops 2 hours.
Science has gotten so good. Like
It's
the
nuts.
incisions that I have, I only have
Yeah.
like I have 4 incisions and one in the back, and they're just small little. They wasn't invasive at all. It's really cool what they can do now.
Yeah. Back in the day, it was just cut it all the way open and then
Right.
you had
I
to
was
just,
expecting a huge scar.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, no.
Are
Four
you
little.
I'm sure you're doing something for the lower half. I'm sure you're doing legs while you're doing
Oh,
PT.
yeah, you best bet I've been getting those workouts in. I also get stir crazy. I can't not work out. Like
Right.
if I don't, I mean, it was terrible. Like the first couple weeks where I couldn't work out. I was biking a little bit because that's the only thing I could do. But now that I'm able to do legs and stuff and also left arm stuff, I can do all the presses and everything. And our strength coach has kind of been gone with the team most of the time, so I'm just working out in my gym here at the apartment, but it's so nice. It's so nice.
When's the team back home for another homestand?
Next weekend. And maybe next week we might have a midweek. Oh, we do have a midweek against College of Charleston next week. So it'll be a good game.
I've got to figure out a time to get out there, to get over there. It's in my backyard, and it's just something with scheduling. It always, either my daughters are playing a game or there's something else going on. It's just like, okay, well, I guess we're not going to this game. But I'm getting out there. I've said that now for 2 years, so I'm getting out there.
I feel you with the busy schedule. And also if your daughters ever want like, I mean, I know you live around here, but if they ever want to tour the campus or walk around, I'd be down to talk with them and stuff.
Absolutely, we can definitely set that up. And
Yeah.
I've seen you guys out there now twice at the rec field that we use for practice and stuff around here. I've seen you guys out there
Yep.
looking and jabbing, getting it on. And when I rolled up, I knew there was a tournament that was going on at the Myrtle Beach thing. I think, well, there's a couple of teams here, I guess, sort of reserved the fields for some practices. And then I got closer and closer, and I'm like, no, that's coastal out there. And y'all had all the fields, and man, it was like, I don't know how long y'all had been out there, but it was probably an hour and 15 minutes that I was there, and it was just nonstop, constant.
Oh
All the
yeah.
fields were
Our
running.
practices are 3 to 4 hours every day.
Yeah. And y'all
It's
must have been right in the thick of it, because when I got up there, it was like nothing stopped.
No, no. Well, and Coach Green's really good at being efficient. She's a
Mhm.
very punctual person,
Yeah.
um, very data oriented, but she runs practices very smooth. There's not a lot of downtime, but in a good way. You're not just standing around.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have to use Conway Fields once every year, I think, in
Mhm.
order to be able to use them for camps and stuff.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because like I was still up there, and you guys were wrapping up or something, and I was still up there, and I had another lesson a little bit later on. And while I was doing that hitting lesson, a lot of the girls, I couldn't see who they were, but a lot of the girls had stopped and was actually cheering on and talking to the
Oh
athletes.
yeah, I remember that.
So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool for that. But man, my first lesson that day when I was up there earlier, I was just stopping and watching what y'all are doing. It's amazing to see a well-oiled machine like that. So if if you ever get a chance, get out there and watch Coastal practice at the rec fields. It's pretty cool to
Yeah.
see. And it wasn't nothing special. It was just on time. Everything y'all were doing was great. So,
Mhm.
but good deal. Good luck to you. I appreciate you coming on, and I will have you on in the future, hopefully.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. It was great to talk to you and get to know you too.
You too. Take care.